Hey guys, I have a super treat for you, and a lot of you have been asking for this, and it is a video on overlocker tips. So I am going to do this in different parts, like in a series. So today we're going to be covering part 1 because there is just so much to learn about overlockers. Before we start threading our overlocker, some of you out there may not currently have one, or you may be on the hunt for a new one. So as somebody who's been in the industry for quite a while, I've sold my fair share of overlockers. You may be wondering how to choose an overlocker. There's so many out there and it's really hard to narrow down, well, which one should I get? So these are my top tips. Number 1, before you even start, you need to determine what are you sewing and what would you like to sew. So currently you may just be making 1 or 2 dresses, but you have dreams of sewing jeans one day, and you just know that your little overlocker at home would not cut it. So you need to think about not only where you're at, but where you would like to be. Next, you need to think about how much sewing do you do? Are you a hobbyist? You're just doing it maybe once a month? Or is this your passion and you're gonna turn it into a little bit of a small business and you're gonna be pumping out those clothes? Next, you need to determine your budget. So where do you fall? There's lots of machines from anywhere $100, $200 all the way to $2,000. So you need to have in mind what you're willing to spend on an overlocker and make sure it fits within your budget. Next, I would suggest finding a local dealer. Now, this is an absolute game changer, I think, when you are looking for a machine, any sort of machine. The big box retailers absolutely cannot provide you with support. They are just selling a machine and they will not know how to help you with it. And if you have any problems, they won't want to hear about it. So if you are somebody who would like a class or would like that extra help, you need to figure out who in your area sells and services and deals with sewing machines. They may have a secondhand one that you could look at, but they're gonna know and help you position yourself on which machine would best suit you. You would go in there, and I usually bring what I want to sew in with me, like a little bit of a swatch. So let's say I'm doing some jackets, some jeans, and I'm working on a swimsuit. I would bring samples of those with me and say, I'd like to see your overlockers and how they handle these materials. And what you're looking for is how does it sound? Does it purr like a kitten, or is it troubling? Also, how easy is it for the salesperson to set up the machine? If they are setting it up like a breeze, then you know that they are really confident in what they're selling and their products, and they're really knowledgeable about what they're working with. Also, look at the thread. How are the threads? Does everything sit nicely? And so I kind of look at those 3 things when I'm looking at purchasing an overlocker. Next, you're gonna start thinking about features. Do you want something to have an automatic needle threader? Do you want a free arm? Do you want this to be able to come out so you can easily do sleeves? Do you want a table extension because you're doing lots of big, heavy things? And finally, you want them to show you how easy is it to thread. You want them to take the whole cover off and show you how easy is it to get to the upper and lower looper. Now, this really can make or break the price difference, because you have your baby locks and your other machines that are all air threaders, and they are definitely a bit of a higher price because you put the thread in, you hit a button, and it automatically threads it. Now, this machine sits at around $500 to $700, and you have to manually thread it, but it's quite easy to thread both of the loopers. So the cheaper the machine, most likely the harder it is to thread. So when you're out there having a look, maybe you're online, you're shopping, watch videos, watch and see how they thread it. How easy is it to get to those loopers? Because that's probably one of the most important things, and the things that people tell me scare them away from overlockers. Also, if you have any other questions about purchasing overlockers, don't forget to send me a message. I am more than happy to give you some guidance. My final tip is look at other people who sew things like you do. So somebody like me, look at what I sew on. It does a really great job. I love it. So maybe you have some friends that you could ask and say, hey, what do you like? What would you recommend? You may also see them at the op shop. I've seen my fair share of overlockers at the op shop secondhand. And you know what? They've never been used because somebody got them as a gift, didn't know how to use them, and they took them to the op shop. So you could probably find a pretty good deal there, but just make sure you research the brand, look it up, make sure that the machine's going to do what it needs to do, and plug it in and make sure that it actually goes, because people have actually taken, say, a different country overlocker to the op shop and it needs like a converter or it needs something to run. So you just need to make sure that the machine's going to be in good working order. So I hope all those tips help you. Now let's turn our attention to the threading. I highly recommend you always having your manual on hand when you start doing your overlocker training, because it has so much valuable information in it. I refer to it all of the time. So when you're just learning, have this next to you as something that you can refer back to. So when you read it, you see it, you hear it, and you do it, you're much more likely to retain the information. Now we're going to move on to threading our machine. And before we do that, I think that you should have a pair of tweezers handy and also a little pair of thread snips. The other thing I would suggest is labeling your different loopers. Yes, they are color coordinated, but I would also recommend writing upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left needle, and also the order that you're going to thread them in. So some machines say to thread from right to left, like you just go in that direction. The way I was taught was upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left needle. So in, out, and we did like a little dance. I'll show you guys the dance. Hold on. Okay, here's the little dance. Upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left needle, upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left needle, upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left needle. Yeah, so that's the dance I learned how to do, so I would remember how to thread my overlocker. Okay, so I hope that little dance helps you visualize the order we're going to be going in. I have done this because when I was trained at a conference on overlockers and the way that the thread should kind of intersect with each other, that this was the order you needed to go in. Now, your machine might be a little bit different, so just go with however somebody's taught you, whether it's from the right to the left, but this is the way I've done every single overlocker, every brand, every different kind, and I've never had a problem. So that is my tip to you. So I'm gonna take this off, and I'm gonna open this bad boy up, and it probably needs a clean because I haven't done that in a little while. And we are gonna start threading. First thing we have to look at here are our tension discs. So they should all be set at about 4 to start with. So they should be at the even number, because then you can tighten them or loosen them depending on what fabrics you're sewing on and different things like that. So what they actually do is in here there is a little tension disc, and when the foot is down, it squeezes those discs together and holds tension on the thread. So 9 would be like super tension, like super duper tight. That's how you create like gathers and stuff like that. And then loose would be 0. So that'd be like no tension, like those aren't squeezing at all. So depending on how you want the thread to wrap around the end of the fabric as you're sewing, because the loopers, they see, you can see that they're wrapping, they wrap around the edge. So you want to check and make sure they're balanced, and these two are going to kind of adjust the balance, and then these just have to do with the stitches that hold everything together. So those are your tensions. Upper looper, lower looper, right needle, left needle. Now let me show you what loopers are. So in your machine, you have 2 loopers. You have this one, that's the lower looper. Why? Because it's on the bottom. This is the upper looper, it's on top. These two interact to create the loops. These 2 needles stitch down and hold them in place. So you have 4 threads, so you have 2 needles that are holding your loops in place, and then these 2 things that are interacting to create those little loopy bits that go around the edge. Okay, the first one we're going to start with is this one. This is our upper looper, and we're going to go behind one and come around to two, and then we're going to come under this. So everybody would have some sort of a clip, or you would have to physically thread through your hole. The next thing we're going to do is come down through the tension disc, and what I like to do is grab them at both ends and floss them in, because a lot of times you can think that you haven't threaded, you're like, I know I threaded it right, but maybe the thread's just laying on top of the tension disc and hasn't actually been threaded into the tension disc. So we're going to continue following the red line. So we've gone down 4, here's 5. So everybody would have some sort of a clip and some sort of numbering that will be walking you through where to clip. So here's another red dot. I'm going to go under that, and here's 7. And sometimes having some clips can kind of help you thread things into places that are hard to get to. So I've done 5, 6, 7, and then 8. I take the end and I go clip it, and then I lick it, and then I stick it. Clip it, lick it, stick it. So you only have to stick a little bit ways through. Move it back a little bit. So you only need to kind of get it through the hole, and then take your tweezers and pull it the rest of the way through. All right, so there is your upper looper all done. Now, my recommendation, which I know you probably don't want to do it, is to clip it, take the thread out, and do it again. Do it 4 or 5 times until you can do that pretty much with your eyes closed. 1 and 2, and you're going to come under and make sure you clip or put it through that hole there. And remember to hold it and floss it through your tension. Then we're going to move down, and we can see 5 is here. So we're going to clip it through that. So you may have something you have to actually thread it through, and that's when your tweezers are going to really help you with all of your threading. So you will have some sort of a bar that you're going to go under, and then we're going to go over 8, and here is the big one. This is the looper. So I'm going to zoom in. Now, some people's machine, you would have to come in from this side. So what I would recommend doing is taking your tweezers, fishing that through, and having tweezers or something on the other end to grab it. Also, you're going to want to take this looper and flick it all the way back, as far back as you can, so that you can get it and thread it through this way. Without the clip it, lick it, stick it, and without tweezers, there's just no way with your fingers you'd be able to get in that sort of area. Now with your newer machines, so we're going to put this in this position. Number 9 here flicks that all the way over so I can get to the back of the looper. Some machines will actually automatically do it for you, or they'll have something on your machine to bring. There's a little hook here, and there's something on your machine that you can push, usually if it's not that old, that will bring this forward so you can get to this hook. That's what's most important. So we're going to come around behind this hook. So this is probably the only challenging part of the whole threading. Once you're behind that hook, then you can click it back into place. And then I just like to move that down kind of out of my way, because I want this looper to go over the top of that one. So I'm going to clip it, lick it, stick it. And make sure you're doing all this threading with your feet up, because you want those tensions open while you're doing it. So see, now when I kind of bring these up, see how my lower looper, I'll kind of zoom that in. The lower looper thread is sitting over and on top of the upper looper thread, like that. Once you're happy with both of those and they're to the back of the machine, you can now close this up. Now we're going to thread our right needle. So again, going behind your hooks and then coming underneath here. There we go. Hook in here. And then pretty much every single machine with the needles, you're gonna go down at the same spot and then come up and over around this tension disc, just like you would with your sewing machine. You know how you go down, up, down? Just think of it as exactly the same as your normal sewing machine. So you're just gonna follow the little arrows and then come behind this little bar here. And then I have a needle threader on mine, but if you didn't, you would just clip it, lick it, stick it. And push the button, and then I'm all threaded. So yeah, you would just do like what you did with the loopers, and then I kind of wrap it around, make sure it goes around the knife and then to the back of the machine. And then I'm going to repeat that process again with my left needle. So under 3, floss, make sure it's flossed in there, up, down. Now I'm going to transition that one. So it just threads it. Amazing, right? I know, life game changer. So those are the things that you're paying for with the machine. Like, you don't need a needle threader, but it's nice to have. That is us all threaded, ready to go. And come back, join me next time for part 2, and I'm going to show you how to check your differential, check your tension, and how to adjust and what all our different little knobs do.